Bachelor. Let's look at this guy, the guy that's always drunk. Let's do the one about, quote, red pill rage. Let's see what this is about.
In the midst of a culture war that's bringing out the ridiculous in everyone, it's never been more important to protect your data.
Oh,
the
Christ,
crypto
ad.
Terrence Popp here, Redonkulous.com. Good Pop showed up today because I'm giving you some good news. You're not alone. Now I know you think my circumstances are so unique, no one will ever understand. Shut up, let's drink. I have
Again, does this guy understand that being an alcoholic isn't a personality? Like, what? Stop. If you're gonna drink, just drink. Don't talk about it all the time. Jesus.
poured myself a beautiful menagerie here, and I'm gonna tell you my story. The longer I talk, the more things you and I will have in common.
Disagree? Disagree.
Yeah. Before we even get started, we're gonna cover the 5 stages of grief, which I'm sure most of you are familiar with if you went to the feminized feminist school district of the West.
What? They don't teach the 5 stages of grief in grade school. What are you talking about?
Denial.
And wait, are you saying that, like, psychology is, like, feminist somehow? It's psychology. It's the study of how people think. Is fucking science feminine now? What?
Anger and bargaining, depression, and eventually acceptance. But you're attending Pop School of Hard Knocks, and I have an actual 6th step to that. After you're done processing all that bullshit, it's time to fight fucking back. Most of the shit I talk about on this show, I did it myself. And if I can't laugh at myself, I sure as fuck shouldn't expect you to laugh at me. Every single dude out there takes the red pill for the same reason. He got into a relationship hoping it would be a relationship.
Look, Terrence, I understand that your wife left you and you're very, very bitter about it, but none of what you're saying here is like reality, right? I'm sorry you're super mad about your divorce and that she apparently, like, probably got a lot of your stuff based on how bitter you are about it, but, like, maybe grow up and don't assume that just because you were in a bad relationship that applies to everyone else in the world. Have you considered that, and again, this is based on my viewings of many of your videos, it seems like you were probably the problem in your marriage, and it was for the best that your wife left you. I don't blame her. Xandris, thank you for continuing your subscription. 3 months of chuds and tinfoil, indeed. Wing the Ultimate Nug says, you don't know? Only girls go to college to learn and read books. No real man is smart. True.
Ironically, what happens then? He Titanics his life. And then some fat bitch says,
There's not enough room for you on the door. Looks like you're gonna
die. And the guy looks up and says, okay, remember me. Wah! You know what they say? Simping ain't easy, and I made a whole video about it. Links in the description.
Are you under the impression that everyone in a relationship is simping? What?
Women will claim the reason why men are failing in the modern dating market is because of toxic masculinity. Wah.
You're literally a spokesperson for it, so you should know. I mean, like, your entire personality is getting drunk and being mad at women for existing. So,
But I was raised by my mother Virtually all my teachers were women, and they taught me what women want, expect, and how I should act.
Were all your teachers women? That's kind of strange. I had a mix of both men and women as teachers growing up.
So at the end,
And the curriculums are decided by groups within each state, right? So, weird thing to say that, like, all educated individuals are women. Weird flex, but okay. Seems like you have a pretty low opinion of men.
end of the day, the problem is not toxic masculinity, it's a lack thereof.
Evelyn Tremble 67, thanks for following.
And I realized this while I was reading the Dear John letter.
Let's see what he wrote here. Dear John, I'm sorry, but I don't think we should stay together. I'm still working through my feelings for my ex-boyfriend Vince, and I don't think it's fair to you to be in a relationship with someone who isn't 100% committed. This really has nothing to do with you. Our time together has been wonderful. I still remember how romantic that dinner that you made for me on our third date was. I hope that you'll be able to find someone who is perfect for you. I hope that you can forgive me. I would still like to remain friends if possible. Sincerely, Jane. Yeah, I don't believe that this is something his wife wrote for him at all. I don't.
When I was in the army. And, true to my own
Of course he was in the army. Classy army. Stay classy as always.
education, I was in denial. I actually mentally punished myself for going in the military at the time. Never mind the fact that this bitch was off to Arizona State jumping face first into the big bowl of Richard salad. And that salad was getting tossed with a whole bunch of ranch dressing and probably some black olives. Oh.
Hey, Terrence? I'm gonna call you Terry. I hope Terry's okay. I don't think that you've processed that relationship ending very well. It seems to me like it broke your brain, and since then you've done nothing but, like, spout memes and try and do a weird drunk voice because you think it's funny. And I would suggest you maybe seek some help to try and see if you can get that fixed, because you regularly are using memes like winning, which I'm pretty sure is from like a decade ago. Let's see when that was. Charlie Sheen winning. Let's see when this was.
Good start.
This was 2011, so it was like 9 years ago. And that meme wasn't even funny when it was new. It's just kind of obnoxious. So maybe consider, like, taking it down 3 or 4 notches, not drinking so much, and just, you know, maybe being a little more respectable to your fellow human beings so you don't assume that all men are shitbags like you and assume that all women are sluts. Like, not a great worldview, and not an accurate one either.
It just got dark in here, Space Ghost. And the first time this happens, you're gonna get stuck in the first
Yeah, the Black Olives joke was definitely a racist thing.
stage of grief for a long time.
You're in denial.
No, I'm not! You know what the lady...
I hate nothing more than people who watch House. And here's the thing, it's fun to watch asshole characters on TV, and we can all laugh along with House because he's a fictional character, but at the end of the day, the point of House was also, like, he's a dick, and he needed to learn to not be such a dick to people. You shouldn't look at House and say, yeah, that's how I want to be. That's badass. No, I think you've missed the point.
Ladies always say, to get over the last one, you gotta get under a new one. This was kinda like treating a broken leg by throwing myself down the stairs. And I'm gonna be honest with you, gentlemen. It took me right around 2 to 4 years, somewhere in there, to finally put that one behind me.
He's definitely doing a voice too, right? He's kind of talking like this. I'm talking like that. Like, that's not how anyone talks. People don't talk like that in real life unless they're trying.
But the next one, that one went by a little quicker. I came back from Ranger School, and I soon discovered that her grill already had a couple of footlongs on it, if you know what I mean.
Look, Terrence, if your wife or your girlfriend was cheating on you, I'm sorry, but again, it seems like you've gone down this path of, like, hating every woman because of it, and just completely disregarding being a normal human being. Like, I get that that can be a shitty situation if you're getting cheated on, but the way you're going about this is not healthy for you or anyone else, and especially not your liver. I don't think it's had a rest in a decade or so. Please give it a rest.
And to my credit, I didn't have a huge blowout over the whole thing. I just bowed out, went to my car. I'm ashamed to say this, but it took me 3 failed relationships just for me to get to the point where I ask the following questions.
3 relationships isn't really that many relationships to go through. I mean, it depends upon what time scale you're talking about, but some people go through a lot of relationships before they find someone they want to, like, spend the rest of their life with, if that's even something that they want to do. Not everyone wants to get married, but the fact that you had 3 failed relationships is not reason to throw your entire personality in the dumpster, right? It seems to me that you should be learning things from each of those relationships about who you are as a person, maybe things you need to work on and what you're looking for in a partner, instead of just, like, starting a YouTube channel and talking about how you think all women are terrible. It's real cringe, to be honest.
I'm the common denominator in all this, and if I am, what can I change? For most dudes, this point of inner reflection is a tipping point. But I'm not most dudes, and I'm fucking stupid. I'm a glutton for punishment. You know what they say, gentlemen, 3rd time's the charm. But I was super stupid and it took me 5. I was raised by a single mother, and I was stupid enough to believe everything she said. Yeah, I'll walk right into the slaughterhouse, put the gun right to my head, fuck it. At that point, gentlemen, I had 2 clear paths before me, and only one of them was the right.
Oh god, that is some cringe shit right there. He actively took the time to Photoshop himself into a picture of Morpheus. Terrence, The Matrix is an allegory for being trans. It was written and directed by 2 trans women. Do you know that, Terrence? Ugh.
Right one. And it wasn't long after this I met my soon-to-be ex-wife.
My condolences on your forthcoming divorce.
And why did
Terrence, legitimately, have you considered if you've been in so many awful relationships? You said it. Have you considered that you are the common denominator? Like, it seems like you probably don't treat the women that you're in relationships with very well, as you have next to no respect for women as human beings. So, they probably fell apart due to that, and the treatment that came about as a result.
I give her a chance after 3 failed relationships? Because she's different and she loved me. Right.
We already did the shoot differently. She would never do that to me.
God, I need a cookie. Gentlemen, I had to stop and eat this cookie because I'm getting so spun up. So while you're at it, go to redonkulous.com. I'm just so disgusted with myself right now. Why are you laughing at my pain, man?
In case you haven't noticed, there's a culture war going on, and the spoils are the very minds of people we are trying to
Surviving 4th wave feminism. Aren't we still on 3rd wave? Let's see what 4th wave feminism is. 4th wave feminism. I'm genuinely not familiar. Fourth wave feminism is a phase of feminism that began around 2012 and is characterized by a focus on the empowerment of women and the use of internet tools, and is centered around intersectionality. The first, second, and third waves of feminism fought for and earned women greater liberation, individualism, and social mobility. The fourth wave continues to push against problematic gendered norms that cause the oppression and marginalization of women in society, the intersectionality of these and other interlocking systems of power, and how these contribute to the stratification of traditionally marginalized groups like women of color and trans women. Fourth wave feminists advocate, like earlier feminists, for greater representation of these people in politics and business, and argue that society should be more equitable, if policies and practices incorporated the perspectives of all people. Interesting. I didn't know that. Neato.
Save. The war on the West is no longer about men or women. It's about the ideological subversion of Western minds by foreign actors cloaked in a public relations friendly outfit, very incontextual.
I was divorced, paying child support for 2 kids that I couldn't afford, and eating McDonald's out of the dollar menu in the back of my car. That is when I finally learned.
The Life of Mal, thanks for continuing your subscription. 3-month streak, great. And she says, let's go.
That any rules or laws that are supposed to exist about equality, they don't apply to men. Men are taught growing up from their mothers and teachers that women are oppressed. But as soon as you walk into divorce court or family court, you realize pretty damn quick that that whole thing is a lie.
You are surrounded by your privilege, right?
And guess what? I still didn't learn what the universe was trying to teach me. What an idiot. That horse chick finally forced me to swallow the red pill. That's why I made a whole video about don't you dare ride the horse chick. Links in the description. And once I took that red pill, I realized that everything women had told me about what women want was a fucking lie. Fuck!
Can you get into that more? What you think women have told you women want versus what you believe they actually want?
I realized that our society and civilization as a whole hates our guts.
No, not particularly. And why is there a photo of Harvey Weinstein in here? Someone who is a convicted, sexual assaulter? Are you fucking kidding me?
Do you have any idea of how monumental that is? If you don't know, you haven't taken the red pill. In the eyes of our society, men are absolutely, completely expendable. I just gotta say, feminists.
Let's see. Men constitute 76% of suicides. Well, this is true. Women actually attempt suicide at a higher rate. Men tend to, how do I put this? Men tend to use methods that are more effective, guns and stuff, whereas women have higher instances of trying to, slit wrists and take pills, things that you can get to the emergency room for. Though I don't mean to minimize the impact of suicide that happens on men in our society. Of course, these are issues that we need to talk about. A lot of this has to do with the fact that there aren't as many social safety nets for men, and that's a legitimate thing to bring up. But I think part of that stems from sort of toxic masculinity and the idea that men are these bastions of individuality that don't need help from anyone. So that's something that needs to be worked on. 85% of homeless people, again, I would agree. Homelessness is a huge problem in this country, and we need to provide social safety nets to people regardless of who they are and what their gender is, so that they can get help getting back on their feet. Victims of 70% of homicides, I think that's probably skewed due to gang violence and the fact that more men join gangs than women. But again, that's something that you can talk about. 40% are victims of domestic abuse. Sure, I agree, but that would mean that 60% are women. So, interesting that you put that one in there. Are victims of the most violent crime? Yeah, sure. Serve 64% longer prison sentences. This again has to do with the way that society views women and the fact that they don't view them as threatening, which again, feminism has solutions for by treating women as human beings that can also be seen as just as culpable of the crimes they commit as men. 92% of deaths in the workplace. Yeah. Yep, that's a thing. That's because there are more men in dangerous fields, and that's their choice, right? No one's forcing them to go and have those jobs. 3 to 4 times more likely than a woman to be imprisoned for the same crime. And again, I already talked about this. The fact that there is bias within the court systems a lot of the time because a lot of judges are older white dudes who tend to see women as non-threatening, whereas they see men as, you know, culpable for the crimes they commit. So, those are issues that can be tackled, but a lot of these issues can be tackled by seeing both men and women as equals. So, that is what it is.
That's some patriarchy you got there.
Yeah, a lot of those problems are caused by the patriarchy. They're caused by the idea that men are these individual, like, bastions of pulling yourself up by your bootstraps, and they don't need any help, and then viewing women as, you know, children who need to be coddled by society. Now, I don't think the solution here is to stop helping women. I think the solution is to view all human beings as people who need help sometimes, and expanding social safety nets to allow everyone, regardless of who they are, to be able to get back up on their feet.
Let's just boil this all down. Why do men commit to women in the first place?
People commit to people in relationships because they care about them, because they want to form a partnership with them, regardless of whether they're men or women, or non-binary. Like, it's pretty simple.
They commit because these women have things to offer, like youth, beauty, fertility.
If you view the only thing that women can provide to you are youth, beauty, and fertility, that's why all of your relationships failed. Because you're viewing this woman as an object to fuck instead of a human being to form a relationship with. That's your issue.
Almost all of that is evaporated by the age of 38. And that's when a large
Do you think you're attractive, Terrence? You're not.
majority of these women finally think they should settle down. What do we have to offer? Security, resources, and protection.
Do you think that women don't have jobs? Let's look at, Women make up 46.9% of the total labor force. 57.1% of women participate in the labor force compared to 69% of men. So it's a little bit smaller because we do have people who decide to have traditional gender roles where women stay at home. But really, it's not that far off. It's like a 10% difference, a little bit more. So most women can have their own resources. So what are you talking about? And if you need to talk about protection, women can buy guns. I don't think anyone who's gotten the choice between marrying someone for protection who they don't care about and getting a gun, I don't think any of those people have decided not to get a gun.
Newsflash, ladies. Men do not age out of providing those things. So
why did you show a picture of a relatively attractive older man, though? Because, like, and again, I don't like to comment on people's looks because I'm not hot or anything, but, like, dude, you're viewing women as entirely sex objects. When you look like this, you just look like your average schlubby white dude in his early 50s. Like, what?
please tell me this once again, I dare you. Who, in fact, is the prize?
Chad Swagger is who Bad Pop would be if he hadn't joined the army. A typical American male who enjoys getting drunk on the weekends with ambitions to become a beer baron and a lousy lover to platinum blonde Icelandic bombshells. Half as charming as he thinks he is, and twice as desperate, The Bro Next Door is free on Amazon Kindle, but it's an extra $10 if you want a kiss on the mouth. A link is in the description.
I'd spent my entire life thinking that women were the prize and they were oppressed. Once
Okay, well, the fact that you see women as a prize and not as human beings is a huge part of your issue. Do you get that? That's the issue. You've just identified the issue, and you've refused to change that thing that's causing your problems.
you take the red pill, you realize the exact opposite is true. And if you don't believe me, talk to all of those dudes who got divorced after they got hurt and lost their jobs. Or those guys who got divorced right after they paid off their ex-wives.
Pointing to very specific instances of something happening do not mean that they apply to the vast majority of people in society. I could find a variety of weird articles about shitty people doing shitty things, men and women. It has nothing to do about the society in general, right? Like, I could go find 17 articles about men let's take a look. Just let's see. Because I'm going to do the same thing this guy's doing. Man murders wife. News. Dennis Perry, convicted killer of Harold and the Thelma Swain something. Georgia man walks out of prison after conviction in 1988. Double murder. I'm looking for man murders wife. Let's do husband. Husband murders wife. Man given 4 life sentences for 2016 murder of wife. Imagine if I put this up on screen and said, see, all men are gonna murder their wives. Like, it makes no sense. Why would I apply this one person scenario to every single person of the same gender? That's what he's doing here. Shitty people exist. Murderers exist. Sociopaths exist who are going to use people for their money. It has nothing to do with whether they're men or women.
Student loans. I know what the ladies out there are saying.
That's not my feminism. Men and women are equal.
I dare you to explain all of the double standards out there between men and women. I'm talking about women doing 1/3 the time for the same crime.
Again, I explained this earlier. It has to do with the fact that the judicial system is full of a lot of older, white, male judges who view women as not being capable of the same level of culpability as their male counterparts. This is an issue of feminism, right? You want to get men and women on an equal playing field in terms of stuff like this. So yes, there's your answer. Thank you to Nlid for 1,000 bits. I appreciate that. Been a fan since the Bible Reloaded days. Keep up the good work. Glad I could finally catch a stream. I'm glad you could too. Thank you very much for the bits. I appreciate it.
As a man, I'm talking about women filing 80% of the divorces and winning 85% of child custody.
Again, the child custody thing has to do with, again, these things being decided in court and the fact that courts will usually see women as inherently caregivers as opposed to equal parents. Again, feminism can solve those issues by making people see men and women as just human beings with an equal partnership. Women filing 80% of divorces. Again, the fact that they're filing the divorce doesn't make the fact that the relationship fell apart their fault. How many of these divorces were because they were being cheated on by their husband? How many of these were because the relationship just didn't work? How many of these are because the husband was abusive? You don't know. You'd have to break that down. It doesn't matter.
I'm talking about abortion advocates bitching about people going shopping without a mask.
Like, seriously, woman, who won't wear your mask, who don't wear your gloves, who don't wear practice social
Wear your fucking mask, Terrence. I hate you, but I don't want you to catch the big Rona.
distancing. Wear your fucking mask, wear your gloves.
I thought it was my body, my choice.
That's not how that works. My body, my choice works because it works like this. Baja Blast, my girlfriend, who's a 4th-year PhD candidate, uses this example. Basically, if someone is dying and you have the same blood type and your organ could save them, they don't have the right to force you to give up your organ. The same thing applies during pregnancy, right? The fetus does not have the right to take your bodily autonomy from you and use your body as a vessel for 9 months if that's not something that you would like. It works the same way. However, deciding not to wear a mask is not the same thing, dumb shit. Your right to swing your fist ends at someone else's face, and when you go outside and in public and don't wear a mask, you are potentially spreading illness to other people. It's no longer your body. It's you spreading your body germs to other people's bodies. Like, this could not be more blatantly obvious, but these dumb fucks keep being like, oh, but I thought it was my body, my choice. No, it's not about your body. If you want to stay home and not wear a mask, I don't give a fuck. Why would you? You'd be home alone. But the second you go into public and you are going to get other people sick, that does fucking matter. It's a mask. It's a piece of cloth. Wear it.
What changed, ladies?
Pop, now there's actually lives at stake.
Why don't you say that again real slow, because sometimes stupid doesn't stick on the first pass.
Jesus Christ, I just explained the difference. Thank you, Shamrock Star, for the 3 bits.
Abortion is the sliding scale for what's in store for men down the line. The whole argument for abortion used to be safe, legal, and rare. Now it's on-demand, taxpayer-funded up until birth. Gee, I wonder what followed that exact same trajectory. No-fault divorce! You used to have a reason to get divorced. Now...
No-fault divorce is a good thing. If people don't want to be in a relationship, if one person doesn't want to be in a relationship, they should not be forced to be in a marriage with someone. Jesus Christ, guy.
It's simply because, and it's taxpayer funded. And if you don't believe me, look up Title 4D, links in the description. We went from smash the patriarchy to kill all men.
We need to kill all men.
Can you imagine if any man...
Again, using extreme examples to try and paint the entirety of feminism in a negative light. It's very strange.
...said the exact same thing about women, he would be dead by now. He would be paraded on social media in front of the world as the shining example
As
of
Compu
toxic
says, he's upset because he
masculinity.
can't entrap
Isn't
a girl
it
because that's the
amazing
only
that
way
we
you can have a
never hear about
relationship.
toxic
True.
femininity? I'm just asking for a friend. No.
If you can find examples of how women are using femininity to be toxic, by all means, talk about it. That's what toxic masculinity is. It's not saying that all men are toxic. It's saying that there are certain behaviors that certain men engage in related to their masculinity and their ego, which is often tied to masculinity, that are toxic to not only themselves but those around them.
We can't talk about any of that. We have to make men feel ashamed for being men. Especially if
That's not what toxic masculinity is, friendo. Maybe look it up sometime.
you're a white cis male, like whatever the fuck that is. Ironically,
It means you're a white guy. It means you're cis, meaning that you identify with the gender assigned to you at birth, and you're a male, meaning you're a man.
these are the same people who will look you in the face and tell you that race and sex are social constructs.
Something about sex
Gender is a social construct.
I don't think many people are familiar with, however, is that it's a social construct.
And these are the same
What a brilliant rebuttal, putting a fart sound effect. How will I ever rebut such a brilliant statement?
people who will say you were always discriminated against because of your race and sex.
Social constructs can still affect your life, right? Sports teams are a social construct. It doesn't mean you can't go to the stadium and see that it exists. Race and gender are social constructs in the sense that they are things that we come up with as human beings, right? They don't exist out in the ether. The fact that we apply certain standards and things to men and women differently, the fact that we view certain things that people wear as gendered, those are parts of that social construct. Race is the same thing. The fact that we apply certain traits in society to certain races, that's a social construct. But it doesn't mean that a cop pulling you over for being black, for instance, isn't a real thing that affects your life. Things can be social constructs and very real. Social construct doesn't mean fake. I don't think these people understand what is being said when we say race and gender are social constructs. Labyrinth Biker, thank you for following.
Everything is sexist, everything is racist, everything is homophobic, and you have to point it all out.
To hear these people speak, you would think that men are in control of everything.
They are in control of most things, at least in the West, and it's even worse in other places in the world, but yeah, that is more or less the point.
And they have to smash the evil patriarchy. And yet we can't get the media, society, or anyone to show us one shred of compassion.
You can have compassion on an individual basis because you're human beings, but you don't get compassion when you whine about the fact that things are getting more equal. It's like you're mad you're not supremely in charge anymore, even though you still have the majority of the power, and you're mad about it, and you want people to care that you're mad about it. No. If it got to the point where men were underrepresented in places of power, then you could ask people to feel bad for you, because that would be, again, an unbalanced scale in terms of your ability to be represented in society, but we're not even close to that. We just aren't. So no one cares if you're like, I'm misrepresented. No, you're not. No, you're not. Nope, you're not.
More men die of testicular cancer. Who cares?
Yeah? Yep. Yep.
More men get prostate cancer. Fuck.
Because most men are cis, and cis men and trans women are the only people who have prostates and testicles. Do I need to say that? I think everyone kind of understands.
Fuck them. The male suicide rate puts the female suicide rate to shame.
Again, as I've mentioned, the suicide attempt rate is almost on parity with women being a little bit higher. It's just that men use more definitive means, like guns, to carry out their attempts. So their success rate is higher. Both are an issue, and we should be providing networks of help for people who feel so desperate that they want to end their own lives. But, like, this is just an issue of not getting men who are suicidal guns, basically. That would be a gun control issue, and I have a feeling this guy isn't in favor of that.
Who cares? So what? You know that patriarchy you've been talking about, ladies? I'm not seeing it. I didn't see it.
Okay. I'd imagine you don't see a lot of things because you're drunk all the time. That doesn't mean your perceptions are accurate.
Before or after I took off the rose-tinted glasses. I got a challenge for you out there, you ladies and gentlemen.
Why don't we have prostate cancer awareness, though? It's a big it's as big as an issue as breast cancer. I think we do. Isn't that what No Shave November is all about? It's about doing, like, outreach and talking about, like, male-specific cancers. Pretty sure. Let me look. No Shave November. No Shave November. No Shave November is a month-long journey during which participants forego shaving and grooming in order to evoke conversations and raise cancer awareness. Learn about how you can get involved and start getting hairy. Yep. So there you go. And in terms of breast cancer awareness, a lot of that's a scam. Like the pink ribbons and stuff, that's like a non-profit that makes money on it, so just for the record.
Spoons, find me a public fundraiser for prostate cancer.
Oh, Devious Chillster with 25 bits says, also, if he's wondering why people don't care enough about prostate testicular cancer more, it's kind of a patriarchy thing, too. Men for the longest time did not want to show any weakness, and caring about an ailing man is a show of weakness, so the question of who cares is a lot of people, but we're trained not to because of toxic masculinity. That's an answer to a lot of these, is basically, these are prisons of their own construction, because again, it's not like women are in societal power in order to dictate these things.
Meanwhile, 1 month a year, I get my pizza in a pink box because of titties.
Again, that has to do with like the Susan G. Komen or whatever foundation, although this is the National Breast Cancer Foundation. All the pink stuff, for those of you who don't know, is a scam. Like, breast cancer research and stuff is great, but the companies that do like the pink stuff, they don't give money to cancer research. They give money to themselves to do awareness campaigns. They are very specifically a breast cancer awareness foundation, and I think everyone's aware of it at this point. It's just a foundation that exists to perpetuate their own pocketbooks. So, if you're going to give to a breast cancer charity, make sure it's one that does research, and not just one that, licenses their logo out to people to put pink on their boxes.
Now listen, I'm not telling you I don't like titties. In fact, I love titties more than a rational man should, and I certainly don't want them to get cancer. But you see how all of this logic falls apart when you start asking basic questions. And then you wonder why once you take the red...
Because there are answers to these questions that you're not going to accept, despite the fact that they're based in reality. You just want to concern troll because you're mad at women because you went and had a bunch of failed relationships.
Pill, you're so pissed off. I move beyond the...
And men indeed do get breast cancer as well, yes.
Bargaining, the depression, and the acceptance. And now I have moved on to the 6th level, which I call the Boogaloo. So why don't we finish our menagerie together, because I'm done with you. Space Ghost.
Yikerinos, Terrence Popp. Drunk and stupid as always. That's a shame. I shouldn't, because these guys are just awful and, like, misanthropic and angry, but I feel bad for him. I really do, because clearly, like, this dude had a bunch of failed relationships, and instead of self-reflecting and, like, deciding that there were maybe some things he needed to work on, or just writing off, certain bad relationships as bad relationships that everyone has, he, like, turned it into a whole angry personality. He must have just a really, really sad life. But anyway,